There is something deeply, deeply wrong with the special teams in Columbus, and we're going to take a look at that on today's Locked on Blue Jackets.
You're Locked on Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Blue Jackets, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, your host, Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. I feel like we're going to be doing a lot of that third one today. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked on Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms, on YouTube, and on Sirius XM. I also have to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Probably shouldn't be tickets to a Blue Jackets game, if we're being brutally honest, after what happened in Ottawa on Tuesday night, I think it was. I've lost track of any of the days, but just a truly dismal first period. Two shorthanded goals, two power play goals in the game. Obviously, one of the shorthanded goals came back, but even if you're allowing, in my mind, I don't think that was goalie interference. Refs did, and I'm not mad that they thought that, but I didn't think it was goalie interference. So, two shorthanded goals on the same kill, 12 seconds apart. Two Brady Tkachuk power play goals. We're going to talk about special teams in a little bit more detail kind of later on in the show, but it just wasn't a good game. Picked up a little bit in the second period. Blue Jackets got a couple of goals. Boone Jenner now has sole possession of the team lead in goals. Jack Roslovic gets his first goal in forever, it feels like. When was his last goal? Let's find out. But my point kind of still stands in this team. It was just his first goal since October 26th. So it's been a minute for Roslovic. He's got 11 points in 29 games so far this season. He's not doing a great deal to kind of entice people to pick him up at the trade deadline, which is annoying because I was hoping that would be the case. Anyway, the second period was fine. Third period, Anton Forsberg just had a good game, I think. That's part of it. He had 3 goals on 40 shots. Meanwhile, Tarasov, 5 goals, on 30 shots. And again, this is not long after the last time he played for this team, which was, I believe, that the second Seattle game of the season. So his last game was, against Seattle, 3 goals on 25 shots. The win against Calgary, 2 goals on 30 shots where he was fine. And then before that, 6 goals on 35 shots in Seattle, 5 goals on 23 shots in Winnipeg. I can't figure out what's up with Tarasov this season because he has looked, you can see flashes of the goalie that he's going to be. He's had a handful of good games, but of his, 11 games this season, he has an above 900 save percentage on 3 of them and a below 850 save percentage on 4 of them. So what's going on? Is it that he's not ready to be in the NHL? Quite possibly. But here he is. And that's the biggest problem right now, I think, is the Blue Jackets, for better or worse, have kind of made their bed with the goaltending being like this. Elvis has been fine this season, but they decided that they wanted to see if Daniil Tarasov had what it takes to be a starter. And he doesn't yet. Maybe in the future, but as of right now, I don't look at this guy and I'm like, okay, this guy should be starting the bulk of the games for Columbus right now because he's not getting the job done. And that's not me saying that I think Tarasov is never going to turn into a good goalie, but I don't know. I don't know that he's ready yet. And so now the Blue Jackets kind of have some decisions to make. Are they still trying to move Elvis? They say no, but I suspect they might still be trying to. There are teams that need goalies out there. You trade Elvis, what do you run with? Tarasov and Greaves? Like, do you pull Greaves out of Cleveland? No. Like, you'd have to take a goalie back. You'd probably have to take a horrific goalie contract back, one like Jack Campbell, one like Cal Peterson, and you'd still kind of be in the same place that you were with Elvis, just a different goalie on a not great contract. Do you try and sneak Tarasov through waivers and either bring Greaves up or try and find a goalie from somewhere else? Like, losing Spencer Martin to waivers was really annoying because at least then they had a couple more options. But right now, the Blue Jackets don't really have any options in goaltending. And on top of all of this, Elvis is apparently under the weather again, so he couldn't fill in Ottawa, which that makes sense as to why Tarasov started. I expected that they would start Elvis, was surprised that it wasn't Elvis versus Korpisalo, it was Tarasov versus Forsberg. But then we find out Elvis is under weather again, and it's not his fault. People get sick. You can't rely, it's tough to rely on a guy that it feels like he's sick every 6 weeks, And again, I go back to, I wish that we could go back to that point in the season where, yeah, maybe we were losing a lot of games, but I wasn't worried about the goaltending, because now that's the thing that I am once again the most worried about. The trade deadline is coming up. I don't know what the Blue Jackets are going to do, whether they're going to just trade everything, whether Elvis goes, whether Tarasov goes, whether whoever goes, comes back, whatever. I'll be very, very surprised if the Blue Jackets finish the season with this current goaltending tandem, though. Whether that's waiving Tarasov, whether that's trading him, whether that's trading Elvis, whether that's bringing in a different veteran goalie, I don't know. Who's to say? It's gonna be an interesting one. But that was kind of my main two takeaways from this game were the goaltending wasn't good enough, which we talked about, and special teams were absolutely dismal. I thought the offense was fine. I would have liked more than 3 goals on 40 shots. I would have liked fewer goals allowed, but the shots were not as wonky as they were the last time these two teams faced, which I think was 43 shots for Ottawa and 23 for the Blue Jackets. So Blue Jackets outshot the other team. They got some decent offense from goals from Rosovic, from Jenna, from Vronkov, which I still think might have been Ken Johnson's goal, but whatever. Again, still frustrating to see. Vronkov 11 minutes 55, Johnson 11 minutes 33. Both players, the plus minus is not a stat that should be used basically ever, but they were the only two forwards with positive goal differentials. I'm just pulling up the actual fancy stats to see what their possession numbers were like, and see what actually is a real stat and not plus minus. But give them more ice time. What are we doing here? I don't get it. Endlessly frustrating. But again, we've talked about that. Ken Johnson had 14 shot attempts for, 19 against when he was on 9 against, when he was on the ice. Vronkov 15 for, 13 against when he was on the ice. And again, played. Ken Johnson had 949 of 5-on-5 time. Maddening. So frustrating. I simply do not understand it. But we'll move on. I want to talk about special teams because neither of them are working, and that's frustrating, and neither of them are working for different reasons. So let's get into that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, though, I've got to tell you about Camino Consulting. How would you like to get to know someone better in an hour than you would in a year? Understanding one another better prevents small misunderstandings from being huge ongoing fights. Camino Consulting has spent 20 years or more providing service to small and mid-sized businesses, helping management groups navigate conflict and onboard new employees. It's a digital seminar for families and couples. Did your Valentine's gift of tickets to the game not go over as well as you'd hoped? Get the Couples and Family Online Seminar for 25% off for the month of February using the discount code LOCKEDON. Once again, that is discount code locked on for 25% off for the rest of the month at www.caminoconsulting.ca, or mention locked on when reaching out for a business seminar and receive the first 5 profiles free. That's caminoconsulting.ca, discount code LOCKEDON at Camino Consulting. Welcome back to Locked on Blue Jackets. We must, unfortunately, once again, talk about special teams. And they're not good. Neither of them are good. The power play used to be good, which I think is not the power play. The penalty kill used to be good, which I think makes it more frustrating. Like at this point, I expect the power play to be bad, but the penalty kill, it gave me hope at the start of the season. They were 3rd in the league, like for the first month and a half or something. And since the calendar turned over to 2024, basically, it's fallen off a cliff. And there's so much going on that, what are we doing here? I don't understand. Because the penalty kill shouldn't be this bad, because I don't think anything has changed. So is it that the systems have changed? I don't think so. Some personnel has kind of gone in and out of the lineup. They were missing Sean Corrali for a bunch of time. They were missing Werenski for a bunch of time. They were missing Jenner for a bunch of time. He's a big PK guy. But it looks to me like the problems have been there the whole time. So I was interested to see, because I couldn't decide if this was just like confirmation bias or if I was looking for it. Almost all of the penalty kill goals scored on Columbus this season have come when 2 guys are on the ice, especially in defense. Ivan Provorov has allowed 22 goals on the penalty kill so far this season. Erik Gudbranson, 18. The next guy is Zach Werenski. Now, in fairness, Zach Werenski has played a lot less time on the penalty kill than Provorov and Gudbranson. For whatever reason, Pascal Vincent has decided that Provorov and Gudbranson are his go-to penalty kill guys. And that just simply doesn't seem true. Provorov has played 154 minutes, Erik Gudbranson 137. Again, next, Zach Werenski, who's only played 57.5 minutes. But then even if you look go to all teams and sort by who's allowed the most goals, in terms of defensemen, and I pull it up, there's only 6 defensemen that have allowed more goals than Provorov. Cam Fowler in Anaheim, Asa Lindell in Dallas, Jake Sanderson in Ottawa, Alexander Romanov in New York for the Islanders, Mario Ferraro for San Jose, and Mike Matheson in Montreal. 26, 25, 25, 25, 25, 24, respectively. All of those guys, bar a couple, so bar Sanderson and Romanov, have played more minutes than Provorov. So they're playing more minutes and allowing just a few more, but some people, for example, Asa Lindell has played almost 200 minutes of penalty kill time and has allowed only 3 more goals than Provorov in almost half an hour more ice time. And then if you flip that to the ice time, Asa Lindell has spent more time on the penalty kill than any other player in the NHL. So yes, the numbers look rough in terms of Columbus specifically, because Provorov and Gudbranson play so much hockey on the penalty kill, but it doesn't look great, if you look at guys that are playing a similar-ish amount, so for example, Gustav Forsling has played exactly 1 minute more on the penalty kill than Provorov. He's only allowed 12 goals. Again, Provorov, 22. The other guy nearest to him has played about a minute and a half less. Brandon Carlo in Boston has allowed 20 goals. Ferraro is kind of in the same boat. Larson, same boat, 21. Travis Sanheim has played about 5 minutes less and has allowed 13 goals. Maybe it's time to switch things up. And maybe Provorov and Gabranson should not get as much ice time as they do, specifically on the penalty kill. So last night on the penalty kill, Provorov played 6 minutes, 4 seconds and allowed 1 goal. Gabranson, 3 minutes, 27, also allowed a goal. But then, like, it's a tough one because both it looked like 2 units allowed a goal each. So Werenski and Bean allowed a goal on theirs. Gabranson and Provorov allowed a goal on theirs. And then Texier, Jenner, Sillinger, and Corrali were all on for a goal. So, like, maybe this is me unfairly putting blame on Gabranson and Provorov when it's a case of every single Blue Jacket is allowing a bunch of power play goals. Let's see if I can pull that up actually in terms of Blue Jacket skaters in general. But it's still frustrating, you know? And there's definitely moves that can be made there. You know, I think Werenski and Bean should get more time on the penalty kill. Looking at who's like maybe Severson, I don't think should get some penalty kill time. Boquist definitely not. But I wonder, you know, Jiricek I think could be used on the penalty kill. Let's pull up okay, here we go. So in terms of forwards, Cole Sillinger has played the most in terms of forwards on the penalty kill, and again has allowed the most goals with 17. Justin Danforth, 85 minutes, 15 goals. Texier, 96 minutes, 14 goals. Let's pull it up this way. So yeah, it looks like the top unit is going to be Provorov, Gabranson, Sillinger, and Texier. They've all played. That's the 4 players that have played the most. Justin Danforth should probably be getting some more, should probably be getting fewer minutes on the penalty kill. David Severson has played a little bit on the penalty kill, actually. I would love for this to exist in percentages, but Kromachenko has played 5 minutes of penalty kill time and has not allowed a goal, which is, again, very funny. Chinikov, again, 8 minutes, 40 on the penalty kill. These are kind of, I think, accidental, where they get, you know, the 30 seconds at the end of the penalty kill so they can have whoever jump back on the ice and be ready. Jack Rostovic, 3 goals in 25 minutes. Severson, 6 goals in 46 minutes. So, like, maybe Severson should get more PK time. Jake Bean should definitely get more PK time. 7 goals in 49 minutes. So that's an average of what? 1 every... Oh, God, math. 1 every 7 minutes? 7 times 7 is 49. Doing math on the fly is tough, but allowing 1 goal kind of every 3.5 penalties, if I'm doing my math right, seems like that seems okay to me compared to, you know, Provorov, who is allowing a goal kind of, again, every 4 or 5 minutes. Again, if I'm doing my math correctly, I might not be. Math is not my strong suit, so I apologize for that. On the flip side, power play is abysmal. And this is a much harder one to fix, I think, just because, like, how do you fix this power play? Because is it the coaching? Is it the systems? Like, this is, I think, the 3rd or 4th power play specific coach. So, like, they brought Mark Recchi in to coach the power play. Previous to that, I believe Brad Larson was running the power play. Before that, they brought Martin Saint-Louis in to be a special teams consultant for a little while. Like, there's so much going on in terms of the power play specifically. Pascal Vincent, I believe, ran the power play last season. So many different coaches, and none of them can get it right. So, like, is it the personnel? Are they being deployed in the wrong places? Is it, you know, new systems and still not working? I know there was a bunch of, like, discourse at the beginning of the season about splitting up Gaudreau and Laine on the power play because they both like to play the same position on the left-hand side face-off darts. Like, I don't know how to fix this power play. And I spent a bunch of time earlier today watching highlights of, like, power plays, and when it works, it's great, and when it doesn't, it's miserable. And I just can't figure it out. Like, I think the fact that they've been missing Zach Werenski for a bunch of time. The Johnny Gaudreau and Kirill Marchenko have both played more power play time than Werenski, which seems wild to me. Obviously losing Fantilli hurts, but he wasn't getting as much time as I would want him to anyway. They can't seem to figure out. Ken Johnson gets barely any time. Chinikov also gets barely any time. Like Boquist, I think should get more time. I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Honestly, I think the personnel aren't quite right. I think the systems aren't quite right, and when you mix those both together, that's when you get a real problem here. Because that's hockey. I'm frustrated by both of the special teams, and I don't know how to fix either of them. And I have ideas, but I don't know that, it's tough to know how to fix something if you can't personally try new things, So I have ideas of hey, maybe this, maybe do this, maybe do this, maybe do this, but unless you can actually implement them, so I think that might be my main thing for the power play. I think is switch things up, and I know they've been switching things up all season and nothing has worked yet. But if you do something different enough times, eventually you'll hit on something that works. Who can say? I certainly can't, but that's why I do a podcast and they coach the Blue Jackets. I'm going to take another quick break, and then when we get back, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that kind of happened on Twitter a couple of days ago, and something that kind of came about because of this incident. So we'll do that in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, though, we're going to talk about Gametime, because I'm back in California, and that means that I'm back to buying hockey tickets. And Gametime is the only place I go to because I'm so tired of fighting all of these other ticketing websites, trying to find last-minute tickets, trying to find good deals, trying not to pay $1 million in fees. Gametime means I don't have to worry about any of that. It's the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for sports, music, comedy, theater, anything that you need a ticket for near you. They've got last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats. They've got a best price guarantee, which means if you find tickets in your section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. They take all of the guesswork out of buying tickets. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices. There's no secret fees that get added on afterwards, and you can buy tickets in seconds in only 2 taps. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDON for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, I want to kind of finish up with something a little bit different than usual. I wanted to talk about the events that happened on Twitter a couple of days ago about Patrik Laine and a different podcast that made a pretty insensitive quote unquote joke, and that sucked. And Patrik Laine saw it, and it made me really conscious of the fact that players do see what you're saying about them on Twitter. But I didn't want to highlight that. What I wanted to highlight specifically was how cool it was to see kind of the Twitterverse in Blue Jackets land kind of as a whole decide, okay, let's fight against this. And I think, a bunch of people, the Blue Line Junkies, I believe, was one. Michaela Hillard was another. I know Nasha got involved and really magnified it, doing hashtag 29 for 29. And as a group, we raised over $10,000 for Laine's foundation, which is, money going towards helping men's mental health in the city of Columbus, which is really great because obviously he's in the player assistance program right now for mental health reasons. And it was just a really nice, okay, this was a really terrible, bad thing that happened. And, it made me kind of ashamed to be a Blue Jackets podcaster, because I feel like we as fans, we as podcasters, we as, quote unquote media have a responsibility to be better than that. And they weren't. So, they apologized. They donated to the the foundation, I believe, and then deleted all of their socials. So, I don't know how effective the apology actually was, but they did it. But that's kind of what I wanted to highlight was, okay, this bad thing happened, but look how great kind of the community at large was. And $10,000 towards this is really great. Johnny Gaudreau is chipping in, and he's going to be giving $1,000 for every point he scores from now to the rest of the season. So, that's probably a good $20,000, $25,000 going towards this, which is awesome. Hopefully, Patrik comes back soon. I am under no illusions that he will watch this episode of this podcast, but if he is, we're all rooting for you, Patrik. Hopefully, you get back and are scoring sick goals extremely soon for this team, but hopefully, more importantly, you are looking after yourself and kind of feeling better in who you are and your mental health. So that's just kind of what I wanted to kind of finish the podcast on is if you haven't donated yet and you want to, there is going to be a link to it on the Blue Jackets Twitter, on the Locked On Blue Jackets Twitter. I will put a link to it in the description below. I gave $29 once I figured out how to do it internationally. So if you want to match that donation, then please feel free. Let's see if we can raise even more money for a really, really great cause. And that's kind of it. That's all I've got for today. Tomorrow, we're going to do another prospect profile because why not look to the future if the team is going to lose 6-3 to Ottawa? So we're going to be talking to Tony Ferrari about Cole Eiserman, who is a very intriguing prospect to look at in terms of his kind of quote-unquote fall from grace. So that's going to be tomorrow's episode. Thank you for listening to today's episode, for making it your first listen of the day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms. We're over on YouTube and on SiriusXM. I've been Jay Foster. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. If you have comments, questions, criticisms, you can email me at lockedonbluejackets@gmail.com. And until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.